My name is Kyle McCutchen. I am from Bishopville, South Carolina. We're here to talk about tracking, dog tracking, and deer recovery in South Carolina Tracking Dog Network. But it's anybody that needs any kind of help with recovering any kind of deer. We have 36 trackers. I think there's 31 or two that's actually active that are tracking every day, every night during the season. A couple that have retraining dogs and stuff. So they're not that are active at the moment, but I think there's 36 total trackers across the state. Um, Biggest problem is whether or not hit or wounded. Um, a lot of guns in the days world, people are shooting these really fast bullets like the 6.5s and the 243s, which has always been there, but they don't have any blood and they feel like they hit the deer, but not sure they hit the deer. And with the tracking dog, we can tell you in a matter of minutes whether you did hit the deer or not and whether you have a wounded deer. And we take it from there and can figure out if it's a fatally wounded deer or a non-fatally wounded deer. And it puts people, the hunters, at ease of mind on whether they left a deer in the woods or wounded or not wounded or any of that or can't find it. And that's our main job. When we get the phone call. It just about every hunter, you think they're at the highest high they've been because they just shot the deer and had the adrenaline rush of the hunt. Now they're becoming the lowest low they can come because they can't recover that deer. And that's when we get that phone call. It's usually we get told all the time, man, it's a huge buck. It could be, but to us, it could be just an average buck. But it's to that hunter, it's the biggest buck he's ever shot. Sometimes, and we're fortunate enough to be the person or in a team that goes in and can bring him back from that lowest low of I don't know what's happening. I don't know why we can't find this deer. I don't know if I made a good shot, did I make a bad shot, and we can put all the puzzle pieces together for him to bring him back to a realization of yes, we recovered a deer, or hey man, this deer ain't wounded. He's not fatally wounded. You'll see him again another day, and continue hunting. And it kind of the phone calls. I mean, I've had all kind of different crazy ones. I mean, from this is my son's first deer, and the son be just bouncing off the wall to this is my son's first deer, and the dad's more excited than the son is. You kind of, but you get both ways of that. So uh, that for me would be just trying to do the best job to answer all the questions that I can for that hunter. Um, I don't I don't try to get excited and I don't try to get upset. I just focus on the job at hand. Um, I have to pay close attention to the dog because the dog is what you have to read. The dog can't talk to us to tell us. So if he gives signs on what's going on, and I'm reading the dog to be able to translate that to the hunter on what I'm seeing the dog do. So, as far as the dog, I mean, I've seen him so where he's chopping his teeth, together because he just can't. He's just out just sighted. And then I've seen him where he comes back to me and looks at me like I'm crazy. Like there's no deer here. I don't know what we're doing. And so I'm only having to read the dog. So as far as emotions with me, um, I don't really have any because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. Um, Now when we finally recover one, um, it gets exciting depending on the track. I mean, if it's one that's 48 hours old, it's gone a long ways, and we worked it really hard. Yes, I get excited. That's a dog that's done extremely well, and I'm more excited for the dog than anything. Um, if it's one that somebody's called me and it's gone 30 yards and they just didn't look for it, it's kind of like, yeah, there's a deer, let's go, kind of thing. But it's always I try to do the same thing every time, and that's be focused pretty much the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. When we get a call, I mean, it depends on the time of the year. If it's in October, it probably one after another. But when I get a call, I ask the same questions. Where you at? What'd you shoot it with? How you know how far? I get all of that, and I'll say, deer deer bucked up or sound like a gut shot. Hey man, that sounds like a gut shot. Let's give that deer 6 hours. So say it's 7 o'clock now. 6 hours from now, I will be at your location. Um, yeah, and depending in that scenario changes on depending on the shot. Um, but I'll get there. I'll show up. First thing I do is you know introduce myself and the dogs. I explain to them if they never had a dog work or never had me work, what's getting ready to happen. Um, I set down the boundaries of the safety part of it. That you stay behind me in case of a bay. That way, if I know you're behind me, I know I got to worry about my dogs and not y'all. Um, and other than that, just tracking. Um, I try to show everything that I see to every I blood type, why the blood. I try to explain all that. That way, maybe educate them as much as I can. Um, and then go from there. Recovery, put it to the truck, and that's it. Um, it, every dog breed is okay. So every tracker has to learn their dog and how their dog responds and communicate. Mine, um, he does some pretty crazy things, and it as far as the track goes, it excites the hunter because I can tell the hunter, hey, he's either going to do this or this when he comes back. And when he does it, then the hunter knows that I know what the dog's saying, how the dog's working. Sorry, but I mean, mine, if it's non-fatal, like if it's a miss, he does a couple of circles and he'll come back, shake his head at you, like take it here, and I'll make him do it 2 or 3 times, and I'll tell the hunter, I say, he can come back, shake his head at us, it's a miss. And when he does it, the hunter they always laugh at it, like, dude, that's crazy. I mean, it is. Um, but because I mean, if it's a non-fatal track, he'll go a couple of 100 yards, and he'll come back, look at it, like, hey, it got with me, and usually I follow up behind him, and I'll let him go. I play 200 yards. I'll give him 200 yards, and I'll follow up. And usually we end up catching up with them and banging them. Um, but it's just certain things like that that we have to look for our dogs. Now, you might take a tracker's dog, it's different signs of that dog. You've got to, only way you learn the signs is by being with that dog constantly and learning the dog just like the dog's learning you in the track. Um, and it's just certain things that certain dogs will do that will indicate whether it's a fatal or non-fatal shot. Because they know by the interdigital gland and how it puts off on whether the deer's fatal or not. Say a gut shot. The gut shot deer is a fatal deer. Gut shot deer will sometimes run 4 or 5 yards or more, and but a dog runs a gut shot really well. It's a straight line on the tracking Garmin. He doesn't come back. He stays gone. And so when I see that and I see the type of blood that we have, and I know it's gut shot, I know I've got to keep up with because it's possibly going to be a bay versus a leg shot. Leg shot's not a fatal deer. Um, it might kill the deer later on, or coyotes or something might be a pretty bad hurt deer, but it puts off a different smell, and that dog knows that. So you might go 200 yards and come back and prance up and down and look at me like, hey, you got to come on. We can't stand here. And he's telling me it's not a fatal shot, but it's a wounded deer. So that's the type of things that I have to look for all the time. Whenever they start eating dry food, I make track with the interdigital gland and put the food bowl into it. And I do that at every food feeding until I feel like they figured it out. Um, and that's because I try to train mine where their food and their prize and their reward is at the end of that track. So it's when I say it's a lot of time, it is a lot of time. I mean, it's obedience training in them. I mean, I want my dogs to be able to be, come when I tell them to come, sit when I tell them to sit. So you got all that involved with the tracking side of it. Um, and then you got um, you know, deer always run different patterns. So as the dog gets older, I will make the track harder. And I might go when they're little, might do a 30-yard track, and then when they're close to being a year and a half old, I might be making a mile long track with cutbacks and turns and all kind of tricks to it. Um, but it's a constant training and constant preparation. I take about 3, maybe 4 weeks off this time of the year after deer season, just to kind of take a break and settle down, run it hard, and then come, in the middle of February, March, we start back getting ready for next. And keep it a constant thing for those dogs. So it's ongoing, and it's a lot of time and patience to do it. Yeah, no, two dogs. I have a 6-year-old lab. Well, they turned 7-year-old lab named Leroy, and I have a dog that um just turned a year old named Rip, and I take both dogs. I try to once once the dog turns 5 to 6 years old, I try to start a second, puppy. That way, I keep the rhythm going. Um, Once both dogs are 2 years old and 8, 10 years old, then I can start splitting them where I can trust the 2-year-old enough to run one track by itself and give the other dog a break, and then mix them up like that. But I try to run two dogs. I like a two dog pack. Leroy does really, really well on his own. He has a few things that Rip brought to the table that I think increased our percentage on recovery this year. That made it a lot better. So two dogs is where we're at. This year I ran two dogs, and we had a little baby girl in the middle of deer season, so it kind of slowed me down. But we ended up running 81 tracks this year, and I put 56 of them on the tailgate. Um, Looking at the percentage, last year, in the percentage part of it, you, you got to take shot placement and all of that into consideration. Last year, 2024, I had a lot of lake shots that we couldn't stop, couldn't, and weren't able to recover. This year I had less lake shots, but I had a lot of gut shots, and um, I think I ended up with 20 something, right at 20 base. Um, and I think Rip brought a lot to the table with that. He's a half walker, half pit bull, and the base side of the things is his game. Um, so I think that's what helps out on the better percentage. A bunch of ones that are memorable. The one from this past, it was I got a phone call. I think it was 9 o'clock in the morning. That a older gentleman had shot a buck, um, and they sent me a video of the trail camera, and you could tell the buck was hit hard, but they couldn't find it. So I ended up getting there about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the deers had plenty of time to lay. And as soon as I got there, I looked at the blood and I realized that we possibly going to have a bay. This deer's hit far forward. And I told him that. And the young fellow that was there, he kept stressing to me about his dad that shot the deer, and it possibly could be his dad's last deer.
My dad has had 5 heart attacks, 3 different cancers, and this past year he just went into remission from leukemia.
My health, I'm currently in remission. with leukemia. We did 19 months of chemo.
And growing up, I've heard multiple stories of him hunting in Michigan with family members, and I always thought it was the coolest thing. And
I started hunting when I was 14 in Michigan. And we moved to Georgia in 1993, and I never hunted again.
this year, he was like, you know what? It's been 20 years since he's been hunting. Said he wanted to get his hunting license and come down and camp out for a week and see if we could get a buck for him. And he was able to make it down.
And it was a father's hunting trip. They've been there all week. The last day.
He was sitting in a stand that I call Old Faithful. Because it produces pretty well for us, and he was up there for a few hours, decided for a coffee break, and came to join me at the campsite. And he was there for 5 minutes, and when he decided to go back to the stand, I was already down. I was pretty much done for the day, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go with you. And literally on the way back, my camera dinged and told me that there was a deer out there. So now it turned into a stalk. I mean, literally within seconds of us getting ready to get back in the stand, it turned into a stalk.
Heading back, and halfway there, they came across the phone. His hunt camera, gave us an alarm.
I had the camera going and turned into a stalk. I stayed behind him, and he walked out and was able to stalk through the woods and ended up getting a shot off. And
so I snuck up to the hunt cam. Jacob stayed behind a little bit, and I kind of stalked the deer, snuck up on him and shot him, and he took off.
Shot looked good. We waited about 45 minutes to start tracking, and I tracked for about an hour and a half. Had a buddy come out, my buddy Velo, hunting partner, and he helped us out for a little while. The blood trail kind of went, I'd say, about 50 yards into the woods, and it just dried up. But just from looking at the video footage of the shot, I thought we'd find it.
And we waited a little while. Then once we figured 15 minutes, we go out and try to find him. We found a blood trail. Well, could never find the deer, and I was out of gas then. And
yeah, I could see my dad getting discouraged, and this trying to be a really, really good moment for us. And I was like, you know what, this ain't over with. Let me see if I can get some backup. And luckily, Kyle was the one that came out.
Then Jacob reached out on Facebook and found Kyle.
After tracking, yeah, there was a good bit of I could see a lot of discouragement coming from my dad. And I was being the key player of, we're gonna find this deer. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this is happening. Trying to rally, keep him going, and he's got bad hips and a bad back now too. So it don't take long for him to have to kind of sit down and catch his breath. And through all that discouragement, I couldn't let that one go. So
well, when Kyle arrived, he got out of his truck and he just started gearing up, and wow, this guy's putting on a vest, a gun, he got his radar or a navigation system, and then all of a sudden he let these two dogs out. And I'm like, man, that's a lab, and I don't know what the heck that other dog was.
Kyle showed up. Man, one of the most welcoming guys too, by the way. Like, as soon as he got out, it was immediately like I had known him for a long time. And he walked down to the site and kind of educated us a little bit on how the dogs work and how they track a pheromone. I thought they were going to be tracking blood, and started talking about how they work, how they track pheromone.
and I never even heard of that before. And walked over to the area where I had shot the deer, and the dogs just started circling around, and Kyle stated, yeah, they're going to do 3 circles. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden they just took off. And Jacob grabbed the cart, and Kyle was going off after it, and they weren't in no hurry because they're just letting the dogs do their thing. And it was quite a while. I had to stay back. I couldn't do it no more.
And we were walking through the woods. I think we got to the last point of blood, and the dogs were just on it. And I think on his GPS, I think we walked like, I want to say we got like 400 yards down into the swamp. We were down in Skateboard Swamp in Bishopville, and the dogs got kind of out of sight. And Kyle was telling us that his dogs will let out a certain bark, or I think he called it a bay or something like that.
So we get to tracking the deer, and we get going about 400 yards, and I heard Leroy bark. And I turned around and said, "The deer's alive."
He had a yellow lab, and it let out some specific bark, and he's like, "Oh, it's still alive." And man, like when I said that, hairs on my arm stood up. Like,
so we're getting ready to bait this deer.
We went taking off, and we ended up getting to the river, and somehow, miraculously, when we got to the river, there was a giant tree that had fallen down. Kyle just shot right across it. And I turned around, looked at my buddy Velo, and I was like, I ain't got that good a balance. And just with all the action, I had a camera on me. I threw the camera off to the side and shimmied across the log as fast as I could. And once I got across, I mean, the buck came running straight at me, and Kyle's like, get out the way, get out the way. And they kind of circled around. My buddy Velo ended up coming across the log, and we just kind of stood back and watched the action. And
we ended up baiting a deer and finishing, making dispatch and recovering the deer.
I don't know how long it was, but then I heard 2 gunshots, and well, somebody else got a deer. Because I didn't think this deer was going to be alive when they found it.
And when Kyle dispatched it, I mean, when I say it was that one heck of a celebration, I was hugging him. I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe it. But we sat back there for 10, 15 minutes talking about the whole thing and soaking it all in. And while we were back there, I started telling him, about my dad and his health problems and another thing that was special about it, we dragged the deer a little ways, and I got out of breath, and I told Kyle we had to stop. And reason being, and I'd like to say I'm decently fit to drag a deer, but I had an advanced COVID case a few years ago, and I was in the hospital for months on life support. So I was telling him I don't have 100% lung capacity to be able to breathe and stuff, so I had to take some breaks. And so we sat there and just talked about how this was all going to be special because, me and my dad bond a lot. Obviously, as father and son, but also, both of us have come back from something really, almost dying a few times. So
Jacob sent me a video, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this thing's still alive. And those dogs held that deer down. Kyle pulled out his pistol, put the deer down, and it was just mind-boggling that those dogs was able to track that because there was no blood. When he said it was pheromone, them dogs were amazing. It was the wildest hunting trip I've ever had. And I've been doing it since I was 14 years old. Never seen anything like that. That man and his dogs were very impressive.
It was special. I couldn't wait to get back and show him. Like, my dad was elated. He was through the roof. And just the whole process was just amazing.
Got back to the truck, and the old man, they had him, the old guy, he was sitting in a chair. He didn't go with us. He was sitting in a chair at the corn pile waiting on us.
So I'd texted him and let him know we were coming around the corner. And yeah, when we bent the corner, it was oh my God, this is the the craziest, most awesome thing. And I mean, you might have thought Kyle was a family member. We were all hugging him and shaking his hand, and
we got back to the truck. He jumped up and gave me the biggest hug. Dude.
And they brought the deer back, and we tagged it and took a bunch of pictures. And I mean, Kyle was so great, so polite. It was fantastic. Best hunt we ever had.
I mean, just laughing. I call it the tailgate talk. Every time I harvest a deer, or anybody with me harvest a deer, we always just kind of take that moment in. I like to spend at least 30 minutes all in a circle, kind of talking about it, and you really get to see how people are and just how genuine the moment is. And that's the best part of hunting to me and my dad is the tailgate talk. It's pretty meaningful, and just really enjoying the moment, enjoying the harvest, and just going from discouragement to, man, we pulled this off. Like, we could have talked to Kyle for hours. Like, when Kyle left, I was almost bummed out. He was such a personal dude. I wanted to ask him so many more questions, and
the last day when they shot the deer, and it was emotional time for him, and the excitement on that guy's face, it did it. I mean, you don't get no better.
So my biggest concern when they found the deer, my biggest concern was losing the deer and wasting the deer. But when they found it and they got it back, I mean, Jacob's just so ecstatic, and so am I. I mean, to get that enjoyment of my son and I out there doing this together, bringing us that much closer. What a feeling. And to save the deer, be able to save the deer, got a bit of a trophy out of it, got some great pictures. But to see the enjoyment in Jacob's face that I was able to get a deer is just unbelievable. It makes my year. We can't even wait for deer season next year to do it all over again.
Like, all three of us, we were just amazed with that whole process. I was talking with my dad about it the other night. I mean, we can't stop talking about it to this day. It's been months now, and we still talk about it every time we're on the phone.
If you cannot find the deer, them dogs will find it. That was the best thing and the best experience I've ever been through. You're not wasting the deer, and then you're able to experience and see what them dogs can do. I mean, they're smelling something that come off the deer's hooves. It's just phenomenal. It'll blow your mind that dogs have that capability to save that hunt and save the deer. It was well worth it. I would do it all over again if I had to.
And that was probably one that I'll remember forever. Because the young guy that went with me, he's never used a dog before, didn't know what it looked, what was going on. And then when we bait his deer in the middle of a swamp, he gets to see the whole thing, and it's the coolest thing in the world. So it was a win on both sides, So that's one that will stick with me for a while. That's the great part about Cyclone tracking dogs, okay, is we're one great big family. And when I say we're family, we talk nonstop, all day, every day, in season, out of season. We're talking, okay. So 36 in the state. There's I think 4 of us on this side of Columbia. You got a few in towards Moncks Corner, Charleston, and a bunch towards the upstate, Greenville, Luda, that way. Um, but if a track comes in, say I get a guy found me on Facebook. He wants to know if I can come to Greenville. I'm not driving all the way to Greenville, but in a matter of seconds, I can pick up the phone and send all the trackers a message to say, "Hey, who's available in Greenville?" And somebody will pick up and say, "Hey, me, I'm," and I can get that person in contact. Um, so that's the wonderful part about cycling tracking dogs. Um, we don't do county to county. We don't do this really. Um, what we do is communicate. Um, so I cover myself. I mean, I cover Lancaster to Monroe to Conway. King. I got a big area. The 4 trackers that run the same area, kind of got two, two to the north and one to the east of me, and we communicate all day long. Got what track? Who can take this track and who can take that track? The easiest way to do that is to contact one of the trackers. Um, any of the trackers can touch a studio, or me or Chuck Brooks. Give us. We can figure out who's in your area, who's the closest tracker to you to be in contact with to start the shadowing. Um, a lot of people on the trackers, we get phone calls. The shadowing part always stops them because people think that they're good enough. They don't need to be the shadowing. The shadowing is not for you or your dog. It's for you to see how we handle it. That way, um, whenever we approve you, we that when I pass you a track, I'm referring my name is going to I'm referring you, and I can rely on you. You know what I'm saying. So, it's more of a to make sure you fit in with the communication part and the teamwork and the family of cycling tracking dogs. Um, there's really no certification. We don't. Some of the best dogs in South Carolina don't have certification, and to us, I mean, being certified is all good, but it doesn't recover your time with your dog and your tracker and learning your dog recovers deer, and that's what we're more focused on as far as keeping on. So the is left up to each individual tracker. Um, Cycling and tracking dogs does not set up. Um, each tracker has its own whatever they want to call it, and they set their own rate. Um, the only thing that we try to prevent is somebody undercutting or overcutting another tracker. That's a no-no. So the best way to find out the fee is to reach out to the tracker that's in your area and just say, hey, if I shoot a deer, what's it cost? Um, some trackers run off tips, some trackers run off of a set rate. It just left up to that individual tracker. Um, but I mean, it just and that goes for some of them's got certain scenarios. If you bay, it's going to be X amount more versus a dead deer. But the best way to find out is just to contact whatever trackers in your area. There's a list um, of trackers and where they're at, phone numbers. So if somebody is in Greenville and needs to find a tracker, they can look at the list or call a tracker and say who's in Greenville and get ask them, and we can get in contact with them and find out all you need to know from them. Yeah, the most difficult tracks that we have are grid search tracks. Is when somebody shoots a deer and every hunter is going to try to do as much as they can before they call help. So they'll call their buddies and they'll all start walking in different directions through the woods. And the more you walk and the more you grid search, the harder it is for the dog. The dog will work it out eventually, but it takes more time. So if you shoot a deer and it's dead inside of 200 yards, and you grid search every 20 yards, cutting circles for every direction. When we get there, we're going to track in circles in every direction until we get after a grid search. Um, and instead of taking me 15 minutes to find that deer, it's now going to take me an hour. And that's probably the most frustrating part of and hardest part. I mean, I had a track this past year that was 48 hours old, and the deer went 1.3 miles, and we worked it. It was a hard track. It was 48 hours old. We had to work it. It wasn't fresh, but the guy didn't grid search, and that's what saved us. Um, he knew it was gut shot. When he knew it was gut shot, he backed out. He just didn't know what to do, and he called 2 days later. Um, I've had tracks to go 2.5 mile, 2.5, 3 miles, and be a dead deer on the end of it, and we've run the track in less than an hour, because it's not grid search. And it's just when you grid search a track, that's when it makes things difficult. The first thing that comes to mind with drones and dogs is both of them have their benefit. Um, as far as drone, um, drone recovery to me doesn't put boots on the ground like a dog does. So back to in the beginning, we talked about I can go answer the questions and the puzzle, put the puzzle pieces together if it's a probable deer for that hunter to go home knowing that that's not a fatal shot, that deer is still. And then that's because we got boots on the ground. We're we're listening, watching the dog, putting all the pieces together. I don't feel like drone recovery you quite get that part of it. Um, Now you get a call that's in a or um, a small tract of land. It's got two neighbors won't let him go past the property line. That's a drone. I can't do anything on 2 acres on a gut. So that's when they both have the pros and and what they can do better than the other. Um, I think that the dog on the non-fatal shots, when a dog tells me it's a non-lethal shot, non-fatal shot, and the hunter, you know, takes that in, and a week later he gets a picture back on camera and that deer's still alive, he gets to continue the hunt versus the drones. You can't really tell if it's non-fatal or fatal, unless you look at it really, really, really good. Um, I think that's another benefit to the dog side. Um, but I mean, but I don't. There's drone operators in the state that I've run the dogs with, and it's really cool to watch the dogs work from the drone. Um, there's drone operators in the state that I've run the dogs with, and they sold the drone and went and bought a dog. I mean, so it's and then there's some that think that drones are going to replace the dog, and that's not. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But I mean, we work hand in hand with a couple of them through the state, and like I say they pass us tracks when they need help, and we pass them when they get something that we can't run. Well, that's a tough between two of them. One favorite part is watching the dog. I mean, just the dog doing what the dog's trained to do in perfection, and receiving the reward at the end of recovering that deer. Is one of the best things in the world. Um, and then the other part is like we talked about at the beginning, the highs and the lows of that hunter. When you get the phone call and he's at his highest high because he just shot the biggest buck of his life, or first deer, or kid's first deer, and then you get the lowest lows of we're tracking this deer and the dog's still working, and I'm trying to explain to them what the dog's saying. And I'm a stranger to some of these people. They've never met me before, so they don't know whether I'm being telling the truth until we get to the end of the track. And so watching the lowest lows, and then people having like the doubts and all that, and then recovering that deer and watching it go right back to the highest highs again is probably one of the better parts. Just being able to help somebody. Um, I always say I don't kick people when they're down, and I know how it feels to be down on losing a deer. So that's why I'm so gung ho into helping. Um, because I mean I know how it feels, and to be there to be able to help somebody that's down like that with a dog that has done me wonders. Yeah, I'm good. That's the best part. Yeah, the reason is I want to be able to let people know about cycline tracking dogs. We're constantly um getting told by people, man, I wish I knew last year. I wish I knew about you last month. Because I shot a deer and couldn't find it. I've known about you, and so that put a fire in all of us as trackers that we want to get the word out to we're here and we're here to help. We're not here to take. We're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for the dogs, and we're doing it to help. Um, and so we're trying to educate as much as we can on what to do, how to get in touch with us, get people on how to get that Cycline tracking dogs is available for any hunter statewide. Oh yeah, I think the two most common things is one, I don't realize that Cycline tracking network and the tracking dogs is as big as it is, that we cover all of South Carolina. And two, I don't think they realize that we're here to help. We're not here to make money off of it. So I think a lot of people don't call because they're scared to spend X amount of dollars. When most of the time, if you pick up the phone and you say, "Hey, I shot a, I don't really want to pay $100 to find a doe, but can you help me?" You know, it, I might not be able to help you in Greenville because it's so far away for a doe, but I might be able to call the tracker that's 5 minutes down the road from you and say, "Hey, they got a doe. You go help them," and he go help you for little or nothing. So always reach out and find out. I mean, call the tracker. Just talk to them. They'll help you any kind of way possible. That's what we're here for. We got a website. I think I sent you the link to it. Our website has all the ways to contact trackers. It is the tracker app, all the trackers on the list and their phone numbers and the area they cover, our Facebook pages, our Instagram, all that's in that website. So, if anyone needs to contact a tracker, before deer season, just find out who's in your area and what they charge, you know, that way you'll have that when you need it. Just go to the website and just reach out you can reach out to any tracker. We can get you in touch with who you need to be in touch with in that area. But just go to the website.